remember everything. Every fake smile, every betrayal hidden behind soft words. Every moment they watched me suffer and pretended not to notice. They wanted me weak, broken, lost inside the pain they created. They wanted me crawling back to the same hands that destroyed my peace. But pain changed me in a way they never expected. It did not make me beg. It made me silent. And inside that silence, something cold was born. I stopped chasing people who only loved me when I was bleeding. I stopped explaining my loyalty to people who treated my heart like a temporary shelter. I stopped giving pieces of my soul to those who enjoyed watching me collapse. Now I stand different. Not innocent like before. Not soft like before. Not reachable like before. My sadness did not kill me. It trained me. Every lonely night made my mind stronger. Every betrayal sharpened my vision. Every wound turned into armor. Now they will not see revenge in my words. They will see it in my growth, in my discipline, in my silence, in the calm expression of a man who survived everything they wished would destroy him. And when they search for the old version of me, they will find only a skull wearing a crown in the dark. Still standing, still breathing, still becoming something they can never break again. I no longer fear loneliness. Loneliness was the place where I rebuilt myself, with bleeding hands and a tired soul. While they were laughing, while they were sleeping peacefully after destroying people, I was fighting wars inside my own mind, and nobody came to save me. That is why I stopped expecting rescue from anyone except God. People only love you when your pain is convenient for them. The moment you become harder to control, harder to replace, harder to break, they start calling you cold. But they never mention who froze your heart. They never mention the nights you stayed awake questioning your worth. The moments you stared at the ceiling, trying to understand why loyalty always punished you. The silent rage of realizing you gave your purest intentions to the wrong souls. Something inside me died during those years. Not my humanity, not my faith, only my weakness. Only the part of me that tolerated disrespect just to keep people around. Now I walk differently, slower, calmer, sharper. I observe everything, the fake concern, the hidden jealousy behind compliments, the smiles that disappear when you begin to rise. I see all of it now. Pain opened my eyes wider than love ever could. And the dangerous part is, I no longer need revenge the way broken people do. I do not need screaming. I do not need chaos. I do not need to destroy lives to feel powerful. My revenge is becoming untouchable. A mind they cannot manipulate. A soul they cannot reach. A man they can no longer recognize. That is what terrifies them most. because deep inside, they know I survived everything that was supposed to end me. Now they watch me from a distance, quietly. The same people who once looked down on me now study every step I take, like I became something they cannot understand anymore. Funny, when I was drowning, nobody cared. When I was breaking silently, nobody listened. But the moment I learned how to survive without them, suddenly my existence became dangerous, because they know something changed inside me. I no longer react the same way. I no longer chase. I no longer explain. And that scares people who built their power on hurting others. They expected me to stay wounded forever, to remain trapped in the version of myself they destroyed. But they made a mistake. They gave me darkness and forced me to learn how to see inside it. Now my patience is colder. My silence is heavier. My presence alone makes weak souls uncomfortable. Not because I speak loudly, but because pain created discipline inside me. The kind of discipline that turns suffering into power. Every insult became fuel. Every betrayal became knowledge. Every scar became proof that I survived people who secretly prayed for my downfall. And the truth is, some of them are terrified I will become greater than them. Not because I cheated, not because I lied, not because I destroyed others the way they destroyed me, but because I endured. Because I stayed alive long enough to evolve. That is the revenge nobody can stop. Watching the person they tried to bury return stronger, calmer, and impossible to control. Now they hear my name differently, not with pity, with tension, with uncertainty. Because deep inside, they know the man they once underestimated is no longer searching for approval. He is building a kingdom from the pain they gave him. And one day, they will watch me rise so high that their betrayal becomes the smallest part of my story. There is a certain kind of pain that changes a man forever. Not the loud pain, not the dramatic kind people post about to gain sympathy. I mean the silent pain, the kind that sits in your chest while you smile in front of everyone, the kind that teaches you how alone you truly are, the kind that slowly removes innocence from your eyes. That pain created me. And now I understand why storms are never soft. Because soft things do not survive in cruel worlds. I gave people loyalty they did not deserve. Time they never appreciated. Patience they mistook for weakness. And they kept pushing. Until one day, something inside me stopped caring the same way. Not emotionally dead, just awake. Awake enough to understand that not everyone deserves access to my heart anymore. Now I protect my energy like a warrior protects his final weapon. Carefully, without guilt, without apology. Because I learned the hard way that some people only feel powerful when they see you suffering beneath them. But those same people become uncomfortable when you heal, when you become disciplined, focused, silent, unbreakable. That is why my comeback will never be loud. Real power does not beg to be noticed. It walks calmly into the room while everybody feels the pressure without understanding why. And one day, the same people who ignored my pain will witness my transformation. They will see the patience, the control, the strength built from years of surviving in silence. And it will haunt them, because they will remember exactly how they treated me before I became this version of myself. A version forged by betrayal, sharpened by isolation, guided by faith, and carried forward by a rage that learned how to stay calm. I no longer fear becoming the villain in someone else's story. People already judged me when I was innocent. Now they can watch me become powerful instead. Because after everything they did, I am still here. Still rising. Still impossible to erase. I used to wonder why some people enjoyed hurting others. Why they smiled while destroying trust. Why they acted innocent after leaving scars inside people who truly loved them. But I understand now. Weak souls need control. They need to feel taller by making someone else feel small. They need to see pain in your eyes to feel important for a moment. And when they realize they can no longer control you, their mask begins to crack. That is exactly what happened when I stopped reacting. No more emotional speeches. No more begging for honesty. No more chasing people who only returned when they needed something from me. I became silent. And silence is terrifying when it comes from someone who once cared deeply. Because they know silence means the attachment is dying. Now they watch me carefully. They notice the colder eyes, the calmer voice, the distance. They notice I no longer explain myself the way I used to. And deep inside, they know they created this version of me. Every betrayal pushed me further away from weakness. Every disappointment burned another illusion out of my mind, until all that remained was clarity. Cold clarity. Now I move with purpose. I train harder, think deeper, trust slower. I no longer waste energy trying to prove my worth to blind people. Success will speak for me. Discipline will speak for me. The life I build after surviving them will speak louder than any revenge speech ever could. And the painful part for them is this. I did not become stronger because someone helped me. I became stronger alone, while carrying pain nobody saw, while fighting thoughts nobody heard, while smiling through battles that almost destroyed me internally. That is why they cannot compete with me anymore, because they only know comfort. I know survival. I know what it feels like to rebuild yourself when your soul is exhausted. I know what it means to lose almost everything and still continue walking. People like me become dangerous after suffering quietly for too long. Not dangerous because we destroy others. Dangerous because we stop needing them. And once a man stops needing approval, attention, validation, he becomes impossible to control. Now I stand in front of the ruins of my old life without fear. The weak version of me died there. The trusting version. The naive version. The version that kept giving chances to people who enjoyed betrayal. Gone. What remains now is patience wrapped in darkness. A mind sharpened by pain. A heart protected by scars. A soul that finally understands its own value. And when they see me rise after everything they did, that will be the punishment they remember forever. Sometimes I look back at the person I used to be, and I almost do not recognize him anymore. The way he trusted so easily. The way he forgave people who kept returning with poison behind their smiles. The way he kept trying to save relationships that were slowly destroying him from the inside. He thought loyalty would be enough. But this world can be cruel to loyal people. Especially when your heart is pure and your intentions are real. People take kindness and test how far they can push it before you finally break. Well, they pushed too far. And now they stand there confused because the man they once manipulated no longer responds the same way. There is no panic in me anymore. No desperation. No fear of losing people who were never truly with me to begin with. Because once you survive abandonment, betrayal, humiliation, and silent suffering, something inside you hardens forever. Now my energy is different. I speak less. I observe more. I move carefully. Not because I am weak, because I finally understand human nature. I understand how quickly admiration becomes envy. How quickly support disappears when you begin evolving beyond people's expectations. Some of them wanted me to remain broken forever because my pain made them feel superior. But healing ruined their illusion. Now they cannot stand watching me grow colder and stronger at the same time. And honestly, they should be afraid of that transformation. Because a man who rebuilt himself alone becomes extremely difficult to stop. Every lonely night increased my discipline. Every scar strengthened my patience. Every betrayal removed another distraction from my path. That is why I no longer hate my past. My suffering carved vision into me. It taught me how to recognize fake loyalty hidden behind beautiful words. Now I can feel dishonesty before it even speaks. And the terrifying part is, I no longer seek revenge emotionally. I seek elevation. I seek power over my own mind. Peace no one can interrupt. Success no one can steal. Because nothing hurts dishonest people more than watching someone they tried to destroy become unstoppable. One day they will hear my name again. Not attached to weakness, not attached to failure, not attached to pain, but attached to discipline, strength, respect. And they will remember exactly how they treated me before I became impossible to break. That memory will follow them longer than my anger ever could. Because while they were busy underestimating me, I was becoming something far beyond their reach. I learned something dangerous during my darkest years. The people who hurt you the most are rarely strangers. They are the ones who looked into your eyes while promising loyalty. The ones who knew your weaknesses, your fears, your soft side, and still chose to use those things against you when it benefited them. That kind of betrayal changes a human being permanently, not because it destroys your heart, but because it destroys your illusions. After that, you stop seeing people the same way. You stop believing every smile, every compliment, every promise wrapped in sweet words. Because experience teaches you that some souls speak gently while carrying destruction inside them. And honestly, I am grateful for the pain now. Not because it felt good, but because it forced me to wake up. Before suffering, I was too attached, too emotional, too willing to sacrifice myself for people who would never do the same for me. Now I understand balance. I understand distance, control, silence. I understand that protecting your peace is sometimes more important than protecting relationships. That realization changed everything about me. The old version of me would have fought for people, begged for honesty, explained his pain over and over, hoping someone would finally understand. This version simply walks away, quietly. And that silence leaves deeper scars than arguments ever could. Because people expect emotional reactions. They expect rage, desperation, chaos. But nothing confuses toxic people more than calm detachment. Nothing hurts manipulators more than losing access to your emotions. That is why I became colder. Not evil, just harder to reach. I no longer give everyone access to my energy, my thoughts, my heart. Some doors close forever after betrayal. And the frightening part is, I became stronger after every attempt to break me. Every lie sharpened my instincts. Every abandonment strengthened my independence. Every painful night taught me how to survive emotionally without anyone beside me. Most people collapse after enough suffering. I transformed. That is why my presence feels different now. There is pain inside me, yes, but there is also control. The kind of control that comes from surviving battles nobody knew I was fighting. Sometimes people mistake silence for weakness. That was their mistake with me. They thought because I remained calm, I was harmless. Because I stayed respectful, I was fragile. Because I forgave, I would tolerate endless disrespect. They were wrong. The strongest warriors are often the quietest ones. Because real strength does not scream constantly. Real strength watches, learns, waits, and then rises so far beyond the people who doubted it that their opinions become meaningless. Now I look at life differently. I no longer chase temporary validation. I no longer destroy myself trying to keep people comfortable around me. If my growth intimidates someone, that is their battle, not mine. I spent too many years shrinking myself so others would not feel insecure. Never again. Now I embrace the darkness they created inside me and turn it into fuel. Fuel for discipline. Fuel for ambition. Fuel for becoming impossible to ignore. And the truth is, they accidentally created the exact person they feared most. A man who no longer depends on applause. A man who no longer fears loneliness. A man who learned how to build himself from pain instead of collapsing under it. That kind of man becomes very difficult to defeat because he already survived the worst thing possible, becoming alone while surrounded by people he once trusted. So now when life tests me, I do not panic anymore. I adapt. I endure. I evolve. And every level I reach now carries a silent message for everyone who underestimated me. You should have treated me better when my heart was still soft. Because now the same soul you wounded has become disciplined enough to survive without mercy from the world. And one day, when they see how far I went without them, when they realize I turned every scar into strength, when they understand they could not destroy me no matter how hard they tried, that realization will burn inside them more painfully than revenge ever could. Because I was supposed to disappear. Instead, I became unforgettable. There is something almost frightening about a man who has nothing left to prove. A man who already lost people, lost sleep, lost pieces of himself trying to survive years of disappointment. At some point, fear stops controlling him. Because once you survive emotional destruction enough times, you realize pain is no longer your enemy. Attachment is. Blind trust is. Depending on people who change with convenience is. That lesson cost me parts of my soul, but it also gave me vision. Now I notice everything. The change in tone, the hidden disrespect behind fake jokes, the envy hidden inside compliments, the people who secretly become uncomfortable when you begin improving your life. Most betrayals announce themselves quietly long before they happen. I was simply too loyal to notice before. Not anymore. Now my mind stays calm while my eyes observe everything. And honestly, that calmness came from suffering. Because pain either destroys a person or trains them to become emotionally dangerous. Not dangerous in violence, dangerous in discipline, dangerous in self-control, dangerous in the ability to walk away without begging for closure. That is the version of me standing here now. A man who learned how to survive disappointment without collapsing. A man who stopped expecting honesty from dishonest people. A man who finally realized his value after being treated like he had none. You know what changed me the most? Realizing that some people enjoyed watching me struggle. That realization was colder than heartbreak itself. Seeing people smile in your face while quietly hoping you fail changes something inside you forever. After that, you stop showing weakness publicly. You stop revealing your deepest emotions to everyone. You stop handing your heart to people who only know how to misuse it. Instead, you become strategic, careful, focused. Now every move I make has purpose behind it. Every hour alone sharpened me. Every painful memory hardened my mindset. Every betrayal forced me to evolve faster. While others wasted time gossiping about me, laughing at me, underestimating me, I was rebuilding. Slowly, silently, relentlessly. That is why my comeback feels different now. It is not emotional anymore. It is calculated. I no longer care about proving who hurt me wrong through words. Words are temporary. Results are permanent. Let them remember me through what I become. Through the discipline they could not break. Through the success they never expected. Through the peace they lost access to the moment they betrayed me. Because the truth is, they thought they were ending my story. But all they really did was remove distractions from my path. Pain simplified my life. It showed me who was real, who was pretending, who loved me only when I was easier to control. And once those illusions died, I became free. Free from needing approval. Free from chasing acceptance. Free from shrinking myself just to keep insecure people comfortable. Now I walk with a colder energy because I earned it. Every scar on my soul has a lesson attached to it. Every sleepless night carries wisdom. Every moment of abandonment carries strength. That is why I do not regret the darkness anymore. The darkness introduced me to myself. It revealed how powerful a man becomes after surviving what should have destroyed him. And now, I carry that power quietly, like a weapon nobody can see until it is too late. People think revenge is loud. No. Real revenge is elevation. It is healing so deeply that the people who broke you can no longer recognize you. It is becoming successful enough that your absence becomes heavier than your presence ever was. It is reaching a level of discipline where emotional chaos no longer controls your decisions. That is where I am heading now. Beyond anger, beyond sadness, beyond the weak version of myself that once begged for understanding. Because now I understand something greater. The world respects strength far more than suffering. And after everything I endured, strength is exactly what I became. Sometimes I wonder how different I would have been if life had been softer with me. If loyalty had been returned instead of exploited. If honesty had been respected instead of punished. If the people I loved had protected my heart instead of becoming the reason it hardened. Maybe I would still smile the same way. Maybe my eyes would still carry warmth instead of caution. Maybe I would still believe words easily. But life chose another path for me. A colder one. And honestly, I no longer hate that path, because weakness disappears when reality hits hard enough. There comes a moment in every wounded man's life where he realizes nobody is coming to save him. No perfect apology, no magical closure, no sudden understanding from the people who hurt him. Just silence. And that silence forces him to either collapse or rebuild himself alone. I rebuilt. Slowly. Painfully. In complete darkness. There were nights my mind felt like a battlefield. Nights where anger, sadness, disappointment, and exhaustion fought inside me all at once. But I kept surviving them. That is what people do not understand about me. I survived versions of pain that would have mentally destroyed weaker minds. And because of that, I no longer fear pressure. Pressure created me. Now when betrayal appears, I do not panic. When people switch sides, I do not break. When fake loyalty reveals itself, I do not chase explanations anymore. I simply detach. Quietly. Completely. Because I learned that closure is not always something people give you. Sometimes closure is the moment you finally stop expecting anything from them. That realization gave me peace. Cold peace. The kind of peace that makes you emotionally unreachable to people who once had power over your feelings. And trust me, nothing frustrates manipulative people more than losing emotional access to someone they thought would always care. That is why some of them watch me differently now. They feel the distance. They feel the discipline. They feel the silent anger buried beneath my calmness. Because deep down they know they pushed me into becoming this version of myself. Every time they underestimated me, they added fuel. Every time they betrayed me, they strengthened my independence. Every time they tried to make me feel worthless, they forced me to discover my value alone. And discovering your value alone changes everything. After that, you stop tolerating disrespect. You stop begging for love. You stop sacrificing your peace just to avoid losing people. You become selective. You become harder to manipulate. You become dangerous to anyone who depended on your emotional weakness. Now my mindset is different. I no longer dream about revenge the way angry people do. I dream about mastery. Mastery over my emotions, my habits, my future, my mind. Because true power is not destroying others. True power is becoming so strong internally that nobody can destroy you anymore. That is the level I am reaching now. A level where silence becomes authority, where patience becomes intimidation, where discipline becomes revenge. People expect wounded men to stay broken forever. But sometimes wounded men evolve into something unstoppable. Not because life was kind to them, but because life forced them to adapt or die emotionally. I adapted, and now there is a darkness inside me that no longer feels painful. It feels focused. Focused on growth. focused on elevation, focused on becoming the kind of man my past enemies secretly fear seeing again, because they remember who I was before the suffering, so they understand how dangerous I can become after surviving it. And one day, when my life reflects the discipline built from all this pain, when my success speaks louder than every betrayal, when my peace becomes unreachable to the people who once disturbed it, they will finally understand something too late. They did not destroy me. They trained me. Every scar became knowledge. Every lonely night became endurance. Every disappointment became another layer of emotional armor around my soul. Now I walk through life differently, not seeking approval, not chasing attention, not begging to be understood, just moving forward with the calmness of a man who already survived the worst parts of himself. And trust me, a man who conquered his own darkness becomes very difficult for the world to defeat. There was a time when betrayal used to destroy me emotionally. I would replay conversations in my head for hours, question myself, wonder what I did wrong, wonder why my loyalty was never enough for certain people. But eventually, a painful truth revealed itself. Some people were never fighting against my mistakes. They were fighting against my potential. That is why they became uncomfortable when I started growing. Why they mocked my ambition. Why they tried to drain my confidence slowly instead of attacking directly. Because weak people rarely destroy openly. They destroy quietly, through doubt, through manipulation, through making you feel guilty for becoming stronger than the version they controlled. And for a long time, I almost believed them. I almost believed I was asking for too much by wanting peace, respect, honesty, real loyalty. But pain forced me to wake up before it was too late. Now I understand something dangerous. The moment you stop accepting disrespect, many people stop feeling comfortable around you. Because boundaries expose intentions. The people who truly value you will respect your limits. The ones who benefited from your weakness will become angry the moment you change. That is exactly why my circle became smaller. Not everybody deserves access to me anymore. Not everybody deserves my energy, my trust, my loyalty. Those things became expensive after everything I survived. And honestly, I like who I became in the darkness. Not because I enjoy suffering, but because suffering removed illusions from my eyes. Now I can recognize fake love almost instantly. I can feel envy hiding behind support. I can hear dishonesty behind beautiful words. Pain sharpened my instincts until my silence became more intelligent than most conversations. That is why I move differently now. I do not reveal every plan. I do not announce every goal. I do not seek validation before building something meaningful. Silence protects power, and people underestimate silent men all the time. They mistake calmness for weakness until results appear, until discipline starts changing your life. until confidence replaces insecurity, until the same person they laughed at becomes unreachable mentally. That transformation is what I live for now. Not revenge through destruction, revenge through elevation. I want the people who doubted me to one day hear my name and feel tension in their chest. Not because I threatened them, but because I succeeded without them. Because despite every betrayal, every lonely night, every emotional wound, I kept moving forward. Most people stop fighting after enough disappointment. I became colder instead. Colder in focus. Colder in patience. Colder in the way I protect my peace. And trust me, peace becomes addictive after surviving chaos for too long. Once you finally escape manipulation, emotional games, fake loyalty, and constant disappointment, you never want to return to that version of life again. That is why I walk away easier now. Not because people mean nothing to me, but because I finally learned my own worth. And a man who knows his worth becomes extremely difficult to control. He no longer begs, no longer chases, no longer destroys himself trying to be loved correctly. He simply improves, every day, quietly, relentlessly. That is the path I chose. While others waste time watching people, judging people, envying people, I build myself. Mind, body, discipline, faith, vision. Because one thing became clear to me after all this suffering. Nobody can stop a man who no longer fears being alone. That fear controls most people. It keeps them attached to toxic situations, keeps them accepting disrespect, keeps them shrinking themselves just to avoid abandonment. I escaped that fear, and once I escaped it, I became free. Free to evolve, free to focus, free to become everything pain tried to prevent me from becoming. Now the darkness inside me feels different. It is no longer sadness. It is fuel. Fuel that wakes me up when exhaustion appears. Fuel that reminds me why I can never return to weakness again. Fuel that pushes me forward every time my past tries to haunt me. Because I remember everything. Every humiliation. Every fake promise. Every moment I suffered silently while people acted innocent. I remember it all. But now those memories no longer break me emotionally. They sharpen me. They remind me why I must continue evolving until nobody can ever place me beneath them again. And one day, when my life becomes proof of everything I survived, the same people who underestimated me will finally understand the truth. The quietest warriors are often the most dangerous, because while everyone else was distracted by noise, they were mastering themselves in silence.